Hello, my sunshines, and welcome to season 2, episode 3. And this one is about holiday stress, not this year. And we are going to talk today about all of the things that we've been doing every year that have made the holidays stressful for us. And we're going to give you some ideas about how to mediate that stress, reduce that stress, and change this holiday so it's not like every other year before. So, this is part of our Catalyst series, which just means that every episode is going to give you tips and ideas to make an actual change so that something stressful becomes less stressful. So, let's go. So, let's talk about why are the holidays stressful? Well, I think this is different for everyone, but I think there are some generalities that I know for me and for people that I know that seem to be collectively the reasons why this is a hard time of year. And I look back over the years of all the patients I've had and all of the people that dreaded holidays, and there are a couple of common factors that we're going to talk about today and use as our talking points. And I think this time is hard because a lot of us have hard lives all the time. We have struggles every day. And then we're going to throw in this 8-week period where all of a sudden you have more obligations and more need for your time and more need for your money. And time and money are two of the things that most of us are fighting with just about every day. Not enough time, not enough money. And here comes this time of year where people are going to make demands on both of those things. Also, I think we're stressed out by the idea that family and social obligations increase. A lot of us are indoor cats. We don't necessarily love the social obligations. So that increases around this time of year as well. And in addition to that, it gets colder, it gets darker. Seasonal affective disorder is a real thing. And there are variants of that you may not have seasonal affective disorder, but you still could be affected by the cold and the lack of sunshine and the not being outside as much. So throw all those things together: time, money, family, stress, obligations, dark, cold weather. And of course, it's going to be a little harder this time of year. But that's not what it was supposed to be about. Holidays were supposed to be about these moments that you spend with people, that you look forward to it, you get excited. Remember all the magic when you were little, right? I would love for you to recapture some of that magic instead of all of these grown-up things that we attach to it. So I want you to think about, what are the patterns and routines that you have around the holidays? What are the things that you know you have to do, the things you know that are obligations? And I want you to think about, how much joy are you associating with those? Or are they all work? I want you to really think about that for a minute. If you are associating joy with the holidays, you're not going to have to fight as hard through all of the obligations because you're going to be feeling better about it. But if you have a lot of dread, you're already setting yourself up for a difficult bunch of weeks ahead. So how do we work with that? How do we make that better? And what I think we need to do is we have to look in ourselves and we have to notice, what is it that matters to us about the holiday? What is it that we actually want from that holiday? And that's very unique. That's very unique to you. So think about what you've been doing versus what you actually want. And we're going to start there, but we're going to roll into some other ideas here. We're going to roll into sort of 5 areas that I want you to think about when you think about what a holiday means to you versus the obligations of that holiday. So I'm going to give you the 5 areas in advance this time. Normally we talk and then I give you your catalysts, but this time I'm going to tell you what we're going to talk about first. And the reason that I'm doing that is because I want you to realize that some of these things might apply to you. All of these things might apply to you, but I want you to be able to identify, where is your actual holiday stress? And it's different for everybody. I think a lot of people, it's family. A lot of people, it's money. Right? A lot of people, it's time. But I want you to identify precisely why you might be dreading the holidays a little bit or not looking forward to this time of year. So the 5 areas that we're going to talk about today. The first one is time. How do you manage your time in a way around the holidays that doesn't leave you stressed out? The second is money. How do we manage money differently this year so we don't end up in January with a lot of regret? And number 3, family and obligations. How do we say yes and know the way that we should. Number 4, giving and generosity. How are we taking care of the other people in our lives that we want to give to? And number 5, enjoying and being present. This to me is the culmination. It's the most important thing. I don't want you just getting through another holiday season. I want you being present in the holiday season and enjoying it. So those are like 5 dimensions of holiday stress. Those are 5 different ways that we might stress out. Did one of those stick out for you? Was one of those the big one, or was it a little bit of all of them? We're going to talk about them all so that you can get a feel for what you might need to work on this holiday. So Joan Didion, who's one of my favorite writers, has a quote, and I thought it was really perfect for this conversation. Joan says, "I'm not telling you to make the world better. I'm just telling you to live in it. Not to just endure it, not to just suffer it, not to just pass through it, but to live in it." And that's a beautiful description of where I'm trying to get you in this episode, is how do you go, just get me through till January, when that's your precious life? We don't want you just getting through anything. So I go back to the original question. What do the holidays mean to you? And that could be a little bit about what you grew up with. It could be a little bit about what you want to have. And it could mean all different things. I've seen people who have a tradition of going to the movies and getting Chinese food on Christmas Day because that's the only thing that's open. And I see people that go to a soup kitchen and teach their children to take care of homeless folks during that season. And then there are other people that do week-long getaways, right? And everybody has a very unique picture of what the holiday means. But very often we do that based on the patterns of what we've always done. So I'm asking you, is there something that you need to maybe add or subtract or shift in order to make you excited about this season? It's a very individual, looking down deep into yourself question. What does the season mean to you? And how would you like it to feel? And if you're not excited about it, which one of those 5 things is the reason why? So we're going to start with number 1, which is time. This is one of the biggest stressors to a lot of people, where they walk around wringing their hands and going, oh my gosh, it's 21 days till Christmas. And I have all of my friends coming over for the holiday, and all of the sort of hustle and bustle and the time requirements of people who are already stressed. And you might say, well, there's only so much time. There's no real solution. And there actually is a solution. But first, I want to back up and tell you, think about all the things that are going to take your time this season. And you might not even be realizing it or putting it all together. Things like shopping, wrapping gifts, food, whether you're preparing it, picking up, making it, and events, things you have to go to. And if you're already just kind of dragging yourself through the necessaries, you're going to add all of that other layer to the next couple of weeks, right? So how do we manage that time and do all the things without panic, without exhaustion, and without overwhelm? Now, do you remember when we talked about what overwhelm really is? We talked about this back in season 1, and how being overwhelmed is actually being out of balance. So what the holidays do is they throw us out of balance. The way that we normally do things gets out of whack for a little while. So I want you thinking about, how do you balance your time when you have more demands on it? And there's a real simple solution for this. And I'm old, so I print things out and I write on things. And if you're young and you don't do that, I still want you to listen to me anyway. So there's something that I've done with patients and I've done with myself, where you print out a blank December calendar. And on that blank December calendar, you write in every obligation that you have. And you write in the basics: work on this day, kids' sports on this day. Whatever the obligations are, you put them on there. And then I want you to take all of the other obligations and start plugging them in. Now, bear with me here. You'll understand this in a minute. So if you have an event on Sunday, the 1st, then you better make sure the day before you're planning, are you going to pick up the food that you're taking, right? Are you preparing the food? Do you have to have the gifts wrapped by then? And I need you to assign every one of those tasks that we talked about to a date. Now, where this gets really helpful from a mental health perspective is this. I know I'm not going to shop for presents until the 15th because that's when I get paid and I can afford it. So on the 15th, I'm going to schedule in my shopping. Now, what happens is I don't have to think about it till the 15th. I don't have to run around going, I'm not going to get it done. I'm not going to get it done. How am I going to do this? I already know it's scheduled. It's on the 15th. I don't have to give it one more thought until then. So the idea is to budget your time, plug things in, and if you have a plan, sure, things are going to happen, but it removes the stress and the hustle and bustle if you know it's all going to get done. If you know you have a party on the 25th and you have to wrap gifts by then you better schedule somewhere on the 23rd or 24th to do that. And this is where I need you to take a good hard look at how you're using your time off, because those of you who get PTO and time off, it's a really good idea to schedule a day before the holidays. Because what happens is if you're hustle bustling, running around, not getting it all done, by the time you get to the holiday, you're exhausted. So I always found historically, if I took a day off, the sort of that week before the big holiday events, I could manage my stress because I could do it then. I could do it then, right? So think about your time, how you're budgeting your time. And then if you live in a house with other people, a family, a partner, share that calendar with them. You stick it up on the refrigerator and you go, okay, this is when we are going shopping. Block your time out. So think about managing your time in a planning perspective to maintain your balance and to prevent being overwhelmed. Very important. Your overwhelmed feeling can ruin the ability to relax during the events and the things that you might really want to do. So number 2, money. This is the big one I hear. People get very, very sad when they feel like they don't have the money to have the kind of holiday that they want to have. And I think that's a lot of us right now. I think there are many, many people who would like their holiday to be a little different related to the money that they can spend. And I want you to think about the cumulative effect of the holiday on your budget. So think of it this way. If you list all of the things you spend money on, you might be amazed. I randomly put a list together. Events, clothes, maybe you need clothes to dress up for something, gifts, decorations, dinners out, donations if you're giving, food, and wrapping, right? All of those little things can add up to hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of dollars. And what do most of us do? We start thinking at sort of the beginning of a month, okay, I'm going to go do this and this and this. And then before you know it, you wake up in January and you've spent $2,000, right? What if instead, and this is what I actually do, I write down everything I'm going to need to do that holiday month from a financial standpoint. And I go, okay, what does that add up to? And I can add it all up and say, okay, that's $1,000. Where am I going to find that? And a lot of us operate on wishful thinking. Is there a little something left on this credit card that I can use, right? What I'd rather you do is look at a realistic picture of the money you can spend and make the best of it. And if it's $1,000 or if it's $500 or if it's $50, I need you to budget that out. And I want you to plan, where is it coming from? A lot of us associate it with a certain paycheck, right? I'm going to get paid on the 15th. That'll be all of my money for the holiday spending. Some of us are pulling from savings. Some of us are using a credit card. But I want you planning it out and not winging it, because I have a lot of people who wake up in January in a really rough situation because they overspent. And there is a limit here. Most of us have a limit. So think about what's your actual limit. What would you like to do? And if you got to rob Peter to pay Paul, maybe at some point in there, it's okay if you're comfortable with that. But the overspending and the spirit of the fun and the joy in the season gets the best of us, and we end up suffering later. So think about your catalyst item for money is plan it out, decide where it's coming from, and modulate it in order to not put yourself in a situation that makes your life harder. People understand smaller gifts. They do. Number 3, I think probably the hardest one, family obligations. When do you say yes and when do you say no? Now, I know many, many of you have family members who are difficult, and you can have a beautiful event filled with 40 family members that you absolutely adore and want to be with, but there might be that one person. And as I'm saying this, you're thinking of exactly who that is, right? We all have that one person. Some of us are lucky enough in our family to have 2 or 3 of them, but we all have that person in our family that I think that we go to an event and we go, oh my God, Uncle Tim is going to be there and he's going to be weird. So if you know that person is going to be there, there's not really a surprise there. A monkey is going to act like a monkey. A person is going to act like the person that they are. They just are. And you have to prepare and expect that. If you have a cousin that bullies you and talks about how successful they are and that makes you uncomfortable and you're walking into it, I'm asking you to prepare. And I'm going to give you some feedback on how to prepare for that. But let's go back for a minute and talk about patterns. Remember, we said that you do the same things every year sometimes. What are the patterns in your behavior when you walk into that room? Are you walking in and just letting Uncle Tim go on about politics and tell you that, how wonderful his president is and how dumb you are for voting for yours? No, we're not going to do that pattern again, because these are the things that steal our joy, right? Nobody's allowed to steal our joy. So there's a pattern in the way you might behave that might perpetuate these things. It's not your fault if that cousin bullies you, but it is your responsibility to not let it keep happening every year, because then that's their pattern now. Oh, there she is. Let me go tell her about herself, right? We're going to stop that. Not this year. We're breaking some patterns this year. And I want you to think about, there are some big choices behind this. One of the obvious choices is, do you go? What events do you say no to? Now, keep in mind with family, that's a little more complicated because your choices will have consequences. So every choice that you make with your family might have a consequence. And sometimes we do show up just to avoid that consequence. That's okay. Keeping harmony can be very helpful. But I always say you do the modified attendance. And I love this one. And I use this one. Any of my people are listening now, they've figured me out. But I'll say I can come, but only for an hour, because I've got another thing afterwards. And it's not a lie, because your other thing afterwards might just be you getting into your pajamas. Fine by me. But I need you to set limits on things that you know are going to be uncomfortable for you. So if you know that party is going to be awful, but you want to show up to make your mom happy, then you can show up for an hour and have a ready-made reason why you need to leave. And I think this is where we have to work very hard on our ability to take up space and have an equal seat at the table. If you are, one of the big ones is political party, let's face it, right? If you are the only person who believes what you believe in a family of people who believe something else, you have to still go and take up space. You can't go and be small. And think of it as an equal seat at the table, right? When you're an adult, you have an equal seat at the table. Even if other people don't make you feel that way, no one can make you feel terrible without your consent, right? You have to be able to go and take up that space and hold your ground. That's the catalyst I'm going to give you here. That's the thing I want you to work on, is we have to set limits around certain people. Certain people are not real safe or comfortable for us, right? And unfortunately, sometimes they're in our family. And I want you to think about your role in the conversation. This is your catalyst. Are you going to redirect it? Or are you going to address it? So if Uncle Tim comes up and says, I can't believe how dumb you are, you voted for the other guy, are you going to address that comment? Or are you going to redirect it? Now, I want to tell you the difference. Addressing that comment means, I think I can stand my ground on this one. I think you made the bad choice, right? That's confrontation. A lot of people don't like that, but you're addressing what the person said. Sometimes people are worthy of that discourse, right? Sometimes you want to have a debate with someone. Sometimes you want to tell someone how you feel. But is Uncle Tim going to take that and just make the night horrible? So you have to decide, is it worth addressing it directly? The other option is redirection. You know what? I really don't want to talk about politics tonight. How are your kids? Haven't seen them in a while, right? So, addressing or redirecting is the power that you have in any uncomfortable situation to decide, do I really want to get into this right now? Is there any point in this? Or do I just want to change the subject? And usually that's related to how close you are to that person. If it's somebody that you really care about and you care about what they think and feel on a very high level, then you're going to address it and you're going to be comfortable addressing it. But I don't think that the Thanksgiving table is the place to have certain kinds of discussions. So, in a lot of times, be the one to redirect it. We're not going to talk about that right now. But I want you to respect yourself in the way that you manage this by balancing kindness and firmness. And we've talked about that before. Everything in the way we treat ourselves and in the way we treat other people has to be balanced in those two areas. I can be kind to Uncle Tim, even though I think he's a jerk, but I can be firm about how he's going to talk to me. So I want you to think about this as your catalyst. This is your change. When you are getting ready to walk into an event where you're either socially uncomfortable or afraid of confrontation, I want you to walk in. I want you to put your shoulders back and go, I'm going to take up space. I'm going to have a seat at the table. I'm going to determine if I address or redirect anything that comes my way. And I'm going to be kind about it and I'm going to be firm about it. And eventually, what happens, it's that surprising gift of boundaries and limits, is that sometimes it's not as hard as you think it's going to be. Sometimes a lot of the fear that you've built up and your own patterns of behavior have created a situation where this keeps happening. But there are certain family members, I have learned in my experience, that when you redirect, they go with that. It's surprising how easy that is. And then there are some that I have learned that when you address, it's not worth it. You're not going to get anywhere. So don't let anybody in your family or that circle steal your joy. And the catalyst I want you to think about is, how am I walking into that room and how am I managing it? Instead of the converse, which is, how am I going to be affected by all of these people? It's no, how am I walking in? That's a big change. So when you think about this, you have to know your triggers. And look, family can give you those triggers like no one else, right? Family knows where all of your weak points are. They know where all of your history is. So if you know that there are certain things that are going to be difficult for you, and if you're going with someone, you can say to that person that's with you at the party or someone you trust, when I get around Uncle Tim, I get very timid and quiet. Can you make sure he doesn't devour me? If I'm over there with him, can you come save me, right? Know the weak parts. Hard stops. There are some things that are a hard stop. There are some things you absolutely know that you won't tolerate. If somebody is going to come up and criticize you about your clothes or your sexuality or something that you know is not their business, then you have to be prepared to make a hard stop. If Uncle Tim comes up and says, hey, are you still queer? You might want to just make that a hard stop and you might want to walk away. A hard stop is the thing in your pocket that you always have in your life, almost always, that you can walk away from things that you don't want to even address. And you want to save the hard stops for the big things. The hard stops are not for just a slightly uncomfortable conversation. The hard stops are if somebody says something that hurts you or that you know is just way out of line. I need you to be able to turn and walk away. Doesn't mean you leave the party. Might mean you just leave the room. But you have hard stops. Keep it in your pocket. And just again, preparing how are you walking in that room and reminding yourself who the heck you are. And that just because other people might not like who you are doesn't mean that it's wrong. And families are famous for that. Families are famous for having a lot of opinions and telling you about yourself. So be prepared. Number 4, giving and generosity. Now, you might be thinking where I'm going with this is Toys for Tots, giving to charities and food banks. And absolutely, if you have the ability to be generous in that way, I recommend it highly. This is the time of year when that generosity is easy because everywhere you go, there are food drives and toy drives and ways to help other people during the time. So yeah, giving and generosity, it feels great. Even if it's the tiniest little thing, do it. But that's not really what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is the giving and generosity to other people you know who might have a hard time with the holidays. And I think if you think about it, you could probably think of somebody off the top of your head right now who is maybe in a worse spot than you this holiday, or maybe not going to be able to utilize these tools in the way that you might. And I think we all could probably think of that person, somebody that lost someone this year, somebody that lost a beloved pet recently, somebody that had a breakup, somebody going through an illness or just really tough times. I would bet you can think of someone like that. Now I'm asking you to be giving and generous to that person in that you're going to take them and you are going to carry them with you through the holiday in some small way, which might mean checking in, which might mean a phone call. It might mean a small gift. It might mean stopping by. It could mean a million little things. Doesn't have to be anything big. But I want you to consider that your giving of that person during this time could be really, really life-changing for them. We see a lot of depression increase around this time of year, especially toward the end of the year. And there are a lot of people who a small phone call can be literally life-saving. So I want you thinking about the people around you that are having a hard time and giving in some small way of time, money, a gift, a phone call, something that you can give to somebody else to lift them up. The ripple effect of that is amazing, because I would bet you that you had a time in your life that you can look back at a holiday and I bet that you wish someone had given you a little boost. I know I can think of that. So think about the boost that you're going to give somebody. And I love the idea of making charitable traditions. I think this is a really important thing for families and for couples to think about, is that there should be something in your network, in your family, in your partnership that allows for generosity toward the world. That's a personal value of mine. I know that's not everyone's personal values, but I find that there's an incredible reward in it. There's a reward in feeding someone. There's a reward in helping someone. So just think about that in yourself. Or is your balance of what you're giving and being generous about there? And I'm not doing this to make you feel bad about yourself, like you should be giving more. I'm doing this to remind you that part of the joy of this season is the fact that we get joy from doing things that really are not just about us. So consider that one. So your catalyst is I'm going to ask you to find one charitable thing, and it could just be a phone call to someone on Christmas Day. It could be a phone call to somebody that you haven't seen in a while, or a meme that you send to someone. But just keep it in mind. And number 5, the last and most important one of all, you have to enjoy it and be present. We can't worry through it. We can't rush through it. You have one life, and you are only going to probably have 75 holiday seasons in your life. I hope that you have 105, but the reality of it is, think of it that way. 75 holiday seasons. That's all you got. How many have you spent already? And that's really, really a great way to put it into perspective of every one of those has value. And every one of those should have memories and should have good feelings. And that's a lot of shoulds. It's a lot of pressure. And not every holiday is going to be perfect. But sometimes it might look different than it did the year before. And that's almost what I'm asking you to do here. If you haven't enjoyed them, how does it look different? And how do you become present in it? You deserve to do more than just get by. And what I see a lot of people doing, and I've been a therapist a lot of years, I've seen a lot of Decembers of people just getting by and counting the days till it's over. And that's not fair. That's not what anybody deserves. So what I'm asking is some little steps to change this. When you go to an event, put your phone away. When the kids are opening the presents and tearing the house apart, that phone shouldn't even be in the room. Be present in that moment. Take pictures. Share pictures. Be in the moment. Have a conversation with a relative who sits in the corner and doesn't talk to anyone because maybe they're having some social anxiety and don't want to approach you. So be present in these moments. And my safe bet is, if you ever go to a party and you have social anxiety, find the pet or the kid or the really old person. Those tricks work every single time. I know I am famous for this. I will go into a room and I will find the pet, and that is my favorite person at the party because sometimes it's just so much easier to relate to the dog than it is to deal with the people there. And guess what? I'm giving you a pass. There's nothing wrong with that. And the kids make it so easy. There is nothing better than at a busy party when I can go in the other room and color with my niece. That's beautiful for me. I love that. That's an escape from all the pressures of all the things we've already talked about. How do I redirect that conversation? How do I deal with this person that's difficult? So find the kid, the pet, and I'll tell you what, the oldest person in the room is usually a good option too. Because a lot of times, as we know, our society makes people more and more irrelevant once they get past 70 because they're not cool. They don't know the words. They don't know about the TV shows. But I'll tell you what, that's a great place to have a really good conversation sometimes. So it's not just about getting by. Enjoy what you can. I love the idea of having a safe person for events. And I am not going to lie, I do this with my husband. I'll say, okay, I'm going to give you a signal and it's going to be time to leave. And then that person can say, oh, well, I've got to get up tomorrow, and if you're lucky enough to go to a party with someone, you can make them a safe person. You can make them if I've gone to the bathroom twice in an hour, then you know that I'm stressed. Can you come and make sure you stay next to me, right? Or if you see me talking to Uncle Tim, please come over and rescue me, right? Don't let me be stuck in any situation. I want you to be able to navigate these things well on your own, but there's nothing wrong with having a safe person that helps and guides you. Think of it as an emotional support animal, right? That thing guides you through the tough situations. I think that I have lots of people in my life that I rely on as my emotional support people in certain times and situations, but you have to ask for it. They're not always going to know to do it automatically. And the last part of this, and maybe the biggest catalyst of all for this one, is I need you to watch your mood and your anxiety level during this time of year. If you notice yourself going up and up and up in anxiety, I need you to name and label why. Is it the time? Okay, make your calendar, plan it out. It'll make you feel better. Is it the money? Well, how much are we working with here? What are the real options? Is it the family? Okay, what are we saying yes and no to, right? Watch your mood and anxiety and note the things that are shifting your anxiety level higher and making your mood lower. Because I want to reiterate what we've talked about with those things before. The problem with just regular mental health versus mental health disorders and understanding the differences. Regular mental health fluctuations are things like mood and anxiety. They go up and down. But when they go down and stick, that's when we start getting into mental health disorders, right? And when our anxiety goes up and sticks, that's when we end up in really bad territory. But you're allowed to have spikes. Your mood can go up and down. Your anxiety can go up and down. And the way we keep those just as a spike and not as a permanent situation is by labeling what's causing it. If my mood is lower because I got to go to this event, then I better shift my perspective and say, I'm only going to go for an hour. I got this, right? I need you paying attention to your mood and your anxiety and labeling the reasons why they move around and not letting them get stuck in a low position of mood and a high position of anxiety. This is supposed to be a happy time of year, right? It can only be if you really work on it. For some of us, it's a little harder. So I'm going to read you something from Ralph Waldo Emerson, and he's one of my favorites. He had so many beautiful ideas that were ahead of his time about how to find joy in a life that isn't always easy. And he says, "This is my wish for you. Comfort on difficult days, smiles when sadness intrudes, rainbows to follow the clouds, laughter to kiss your lips, sunsets to warm your heart, hugs when spirits sag, beauty for your eyes to see, friendships to brighten your being, confidence for when you doubt, courage to know yourself, patience to accept the truth, and love to complete your life." Ralph really nailed it, didn't he? He really got the idea that what we're talking about here is about living and being present. So I think the message that we hear in those words is that isn't that the goal all the time? Isn't that what we want all of the time? This beautiful balance of all of the things that we want in our life. And the holidays can be a time to feel those things and to be close to people, and our dread and our worry and our stress gets in the way. So I don't want you to give away your peace this season. I don't want you to give away your joy this season. I want you to experience. I don't want you to just feel the negative aspects. I want you to experience what could happen if you were probably less stressed about it. So I want you to embrace the holiday that you want this year. And I want you to consider the 5 things that we talked about as areas that might be stressful, and maybe make one small change in those stressful areas to make it different. And guess what? You just started your new pattern. And then next year, you reinforce your pattern. And every year, it gets better and better. Less of what stresses you out and more of what you can be present in. That's our goal. So, our next episode, we are going to continue this with our last episode in the Catalyst season. And that's going to be about the new year and the resets that brings. We're not talking about resolutions. We're talking about an opportunity once we get through the holiday season to start next year with something a little different, a small change to make everything a little bit better. So, my sunshines, thank you for being here, and I will see you next time. Bye.